Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-host is Victoria Monday, and down in the chat room, Alina moderating the chat. We are back, so welcome, everybody. We are running this in conjunction with Connecting the Universe every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and I hope to see some new faces along with the ones that have been following us for all this time. So Alexandra Holzer is our first guest on the return show. So thank you, Alex, for joining us. Always a pleasure having you aboard. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you. How are you both,
Alex?
Do
you want the truth? No.
Yeah.
Let's not go near, shall we? You just got
awesome.
Don't want to scare people away.
Yeah, keeping crazy busy. Oh, I do have to throw out the for those that are listening to the podcast version later, please, of course, join us every Wednesday night for the live version of the show, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday nights, connecteduniverseportal.com, or the public version, which runs on my YouTube channel, Mike Ricksecker. It's the Old Haunted Road Media channel. But I do invite you all out to the Connected Universe, connecteduniverseportal.com. And of course, Egypt trip next year, Stargates of Ancient Egypt in April. If the world still exists at that point, we shall see.
It will, just different.
just different. But that's a topic for another time. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Amityville Curse, which is the new movie that was, Alex, you're the executive producer on this film. It's based off of your father's work, the Amityville Curse.
Yes, there it is.
There it is. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, well, 33 years ago, 33 years ago in 1991, thereabouts, my father's book, The Amityville Curse, got optioned for film for TV. And so it was a Canadian production, and they put it out, and then it kind of circled back around. I don't know. I'm looking at my hair. It's terrible. What is happening?
No, you're perfect.
Oh, my God. I swear to God, I can't anymore. Okay, so this is what I do. I'm not normal. So that happened, and so this wonderful production company from Montreal contacted me, and we went through the process of, we want to do this again. Yet this time it's now for Tubi, and of course Tubi didn't exist 33 years ago. So one thing led to another, and basically they teamed up with a really, really great writer named Dennis Heaton. Now, Dennis Heaton has had 2 shows on Netflix, one of which was called The Imperfects. And he's on Twitter, so anybody that's interested can look him up. But he's a really great writer, and he does comedy. That's like his passion. We all have our passions of what we like, but he also does horror and so forth. So he was chosen to write the script for the new Amityville Curse film. And what was really cool was I had to dig through my father's files to look for a synopsis, a treatment, which could be, a couple of pages. But of course, with my father, it was like 12 pages. And so the head of development and producer of Incendo in Canada was like, so this is kind of 12 pages. I said, yeah, that's what I have. Because they really wanted it to kind of go along the same line of the characters that my father created for the story that he created. So it's fiction, so that people understand. He was a researcher on the Amityville case with Ethel Johnson Mayers, who was a medium that he brought for that particular case. But he also wrote 3 books off of the story, fiction-based, because he was also a creative. So I think sometimes people have a hard time understanding that. He's not just a ghost hunter. He was, he wrote Broadway musicals. He sold some. He just was that Renaissance kind of man, if you will. And
and even with like this one, Murder in Amityville, it's not really like ghosts. It's really about the case itself.
Yeah. And that was turned into Amityville to the Possession, which is a cult classic film. And so this was the second book that was optioned in the series of my father's, except this one was based on fictitious characters, where they go and they want to, it's modernized. So the Amityville Curse film that's out, now is been modernized, reimagined for the generations there now. So for us, we look at it, it's a little bit different, but for the generation that we have, like my son's 18 and his friends, and they watched and they really liked it, because they like that kind of stuff, the way that it was filmed. And it's got a mix of different types of characters in there, but it's the people that my father created and the storyline. So they want to flip the house, and that's a thing, right? So that's kind of how the premise of the story begins. And of course, it's an evil house. So shocker. But then, so we started going through the process, and it kind of took a year to get there because the air date, kind of got pushed back when it was going to be in spring. So then it had aired, I believe, May 28th, finally. And of course, it's a Tubi original. And Tubi, has a huge range of films, not just licensing of films that we used to watch when we were younger and new stuff, but they have their original slot. And I've done a few things for them already for the past 2 years. And so, I said, I need to be an executive producer on this. I'd like that opportunity because, so they were very kind and said, yes, yes, yes. And so I was involved, which was nice. And of course, what I love is when you watch the film in the opening credits, they actually gave my father his own space, and then they gave me my own space. And you don't really see that. Credits roll. Like when I had that TV show, I'm like lost at the bottom somewhere, archival courtesy photos, whatever, of Alexandra Holzer. But here,
because they had a list of producers, but they gave you your own executive producer, Alexandra Holzer. Yeah. And then, of course, your father there, based on his work. Yeah.
That's right. So, I really, it just was a good vibe all around. They're great people. And we're actually, fingers crossed, have another book of my father's. So, which is fiction. There is another Amityville book called The Secret of Amityville. But the problem with that, for them, it doesn't mean for somebody else it wouldn't be, is he also created another storyline where it brings in the Native Americans. And so, it depends. Some people are very touchy about that. But for me, it's but it's factual information. And then he created The Secret of Amityville, and it's a really great fictional book. So I have that on the side too, just because I have to find the right home for it. But we are looking at another one of my father's books right now, actually going into a year yet again. And hopefully we're coming full circle to that to see if they're going to want it or not. So.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you have a lot of irons in the fire there with this. And, it's, I think it's something that over the decades, there's been a lot of misinformation. I thought that was interesting in the film that, they mentioned a lot of the different rumors, legends, folklore, all that about the house that are actually true to what we've, witnessed and experienced here over the past 50 years. Jeez, is it really that long? So yeah, let's not age ourselves. Yeah. So Alex, what is your take on what goes on at this house? Because your family's been intimately involved with it for a long time now.
Well, here's the thing. You can change the decor of the outside of the house, which of course was done a while back, changing the shape of the windows. And if you actually drive around, and not just Long Island, but if you go to Connecticut or Massachusetts, there are homes that have the same style window frames.
Sure.
It was something of, I think, of the 70s. It was just a popular structure to have. And they were like anything else, like bell bottoms. Let's put these like little quarter moon windows in. It was a stylistic architectural choice and trend for that time. But my whole feeling is that it's a beautiful house on the water, and it's got its own boating slip and plenty of space for a big family. We have a big family, so I can appreciate that, and all the amenities. The town's beautiful. Long Island's great. parts of it, like everything else, is good and bad. But the whole frustrating part is that a horrific murder took place, and it's very seated and sorted because there's a lot of things that my father didn't go near. He was not a detective in that sense. He was a paranormal detective,
Right.
but that wasn't his job. Other people have come forward with information and done research and going back now, because at a time you couldn't access the police records. They wouldn't let you. And nobody wanted to say anything because this horrific murder, multiple murders, put a blemish on the town that was becoming a boating and fishing town, and nothing bad ever happened there. That same old story. This doesn't happen here. So it kind of ruined that, and mayor and officials and police, they just didn't want any more attention to it, and I can understand that. But you couldn't get the records. There's all sorts of stuff. So there were people that finally got access. I actually joined in on an experiment with a film producer. He also spoke to another psychic. I didn't know who she was. Everybody has the ability. So, but if you want it.
Yeah.
And I had picked up on a second handgun, I think like a little 38 special or something. And then he did the experiment with this other lady and picked up on the same thing. And then he had gotten a really great team together, a diving team that does these expeditions to go and look for things, and pulled up a second handgun from that canal, not far from the house. So, and aside from the bloody rag in the trash can, in that area. So there's a lot of mystique to it, but my father's role in it was really the aftermath of what happens when something like this happens in a location. In this case, the structure is a home, but this can happen like the Battle of Gettysburg out in the open. So it doesn't really matter. But his focus was on the land itself, because the original house was moved over to that land, that parcel.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the 1800s, it was farmland. So, I remember as a kid on the highway seeing these houses being moved. You ever see that? The house, like houses driving by.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my God, is somebody in there? What is that? Can they do that? So, that house was relocated to that parcel, but that parcel, that area had problems, potentially a curse, so that's, I think, how all that kind of got started. And then you add this horrific moment in time in 1974. My father goes there. I mean, when 1974, and then he goes to 1977. This happens in the early 70s, and it resonates outward,
Yeah.
And so, but that wasn't the original location of the house. And there's a lot of facts that my father had proven and shown about the Shinnecock Indians in the area and the head chief. So it's kind of gotten to the point where people still don't even understand that. He was proven correct after all, and took a lot of heat for coming out and saying, this is what this is. This is what I found. He was never about, well, I think it could be this. It's like, this is what I found, like it or not. And I was on MGM Plus. I did Amityville, an origin story, where we were in episode 2. And my father and I got the bulk of that episode. Of course, it didn't really serve justice for him, because he has a whole film that he made on that case, and they really didn't show it. I think like 3 minutes of it. So I still have that. But his work on the case was very different than, I believe, what the truth is of what happened, which you're dealing with the mob, the family's involvement,
Right.
That there was more than one person that was involved in the crime. I think that, maybe that Ronnie was a patsy and took the fall,
Well, a lot of the because you're also involved with that documentary, Shattered Hopes, which covered a lot of that material, which I thought was a fascinating series. The 3 different parts.
That's the man I was. Ryan Katzenbach. He was the one that tested me as a medium, just to see if I would pick anything up, and he was hardcore on facts. It was trying to understand who these people were, where did they come from, what is that history? Because you have to understand that there was a lot of mob activities and ties. There was a lot of abuse going on. There are, I'm sure, neighbors and people who maybe knew of the family at the time. They did speak on that documentary that I just mentioned. Some came out for the first time. But, you really don't know what's going on just because you have dinner at their house one night. You really don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I believe that family kept to themselves to some degree. I think that maybe the kids didn't know half of what was really going on. And because he was the oldest, he had his own issues, doing drugs, God knows what. There are just people born bad, and they just can't flip and understand the error of their ways. But I really feel that, through that research with Shattered Hopes, I mean, you really start to see the crime element, and you really start to put together, this is just a seeded situation, and maybe somebody owed somebody money, and this was a robbery or a crime gone bad. You don't know.
Yeah.
It seems more sorted to me that that's the direction. And Occam's razor. Now, the aftermath of the murders is when my father comes in and then does the paranormal side of things, where that makes sense, because any kind of abrupt end to your life creates the possibility of lingering around confused. So that's where you have all that. And he had a lot of great Polaroid photography where these bullet holes show up with the halo glow around them. And, you just look at this and you're like, they're communicating with you. Whoever is still around that's able to communicate, showing you all this stuff, and that's the paranormal side of it. But it took all those murders to take place for that involvement on his end. But the other part of it was all crime. And I think it all kind of got convoluted and mixed into, it's a haunted house versus people were murdered, there's a crime. But they both run parallel. The crimes happen that created the murders, that creates a potential haunting. My father said that the house wasn't haunted. It had to do with the aftermath that would create the haunting, but eventually would dissipate. It would move on. The energy would move on. And there have been owners since then that haven't said anything. They haven't there's no issues, because the house itself isn't the problem. Unlike in the Amityville Curse, the house is the problem.
Yeah. in the movie and I watched it the other night. Yeah, it was, the house.
I loved it, by the way. I have a couple of questions before you go any further, since you're talking about the crime. When you were talking about the second gun, did they ever test the ballistics of it to see if they were actually used in the murders?
They took the gun away from Ryan. Nassau County Police confiscated the gun and said that would be evidence or part of a crime scene, or they don't know. But they took the gun from him. I think he had to wait a very long time for it to be released, and I haven't spoken to him in a long time, so I don't even know if they released the gun back to him, because technically finders keepers, and he paid a lot of money to have this diving team go down and do this. So I don't know where the boundaries are for who gets what, but they did take it from him because he disclosed it. And
okay. My other question is, in the movie they kept saying, I'm going to burn the damn house down and salt the land. Do you think that the land is cursed? And if so, how are they ever going to get rid of that? Because, I mean, it's been going on for generations now.
Well, I don't know. You would think that I would have been there a lot of times and stuff, but we only drove by there once to do the interview for a couple of years back, 3 years back now. And it was the first time that I literally was in front of the house. I've driven by it my whole life going out to Long Island. But I kind of, my husband and I just stopped for me. He's like, go look at that house, so I'm looking and I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to pick up something, anything, but you can't force it. And I'm like, you know what? It's a really lovely street. It's a lovely home. The property's kept up. There's, 4 cars in the driveway. It looks fine. I think the problem I have, and this is just personal for me, is I would have a hard time moving into a home where there was a murder. Because as a sensitive, I would be so empathetic to that loss of life. I wouldn't want to walk into that, because we already have that around us when we lose loved ones. So whoever had the strength or ability, or maybe it was a financial situation and it was this is as good as it's going to get, and that's a great deal kind of thing. And I understand that money rules the roost, unfortunately. But it looked fine. I don't think there's anything going on there. I really don't. It's been such a long time. And I think there's a misconception. When something like this happens in a home or structure location, people think that it goes on forever. Like a castle is haunted forever. Ooh, it's a 200-year-old castle. It still has ghosts. I think there are layers like an onion where there's movement of spirit energy or ghosts that can't move on, that can kind of parallel themselves into another structure or location. They kind of hide out, so to speak. And I think that there's no way of really defining what would be in the castle that's 200 years old, that you think maybe as the story would go for one particular castle, and people were tortured in the basement, blah, 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 and King so-and-so was there and the family and all this stuff, like the Hasbro curse, for instance. At some point, energy moves on and it dissipates. It just does. If we believe that we continue on after our physical shell is gone, then you have to take that and understand that it's the same belief should be applied to any structure or location of where there was a terrible happening of loss of life, that eventually that too will dissipate. And others that are fresher or newer in that vicinity might move in, and that is what you are picking up on, not of the original story of 200 years past. And it's the same thing with Amityville. I don't see how, it's kind of nonsensical. We keep moving. Energy is not something you can stop. If you try to have an apocalyptic moment in Manhattan and everybody's gone, except for that one dog that runs across the street. Like, how does that even happen? I don't get that. It's like The Walking Dead. Hello. But there he is. I'm like, oh, feed him. Somebody feed him. So let's say we have that apocalyptic moment. Guess what? Nature pushes through. The trees and the roots, they grow. Everything still pushes through. You cannot stop the cycle of life and energy, physical or not, because it's still all the same. And so that is
Okay. So if there was a family that lived there and all these horrible things happened, and then the next group or individuals moved in and they were full of love and light. And I think I read that it was an older couple who lived there for like 30 years or something. They had a wonderful time and a wonderful experience. Wouldn't their love and their energy kind of counteract
always
the negativity?
Always. And that's a good lesson for, I think, people to understand. When you're having a difficult moment in life, hardships, and it's negative and it brings anger, frustration, whatever, you're not in your best self. And so if you can flip it, like in the curse, flip in the house, if you can flip yourself as your own home, because this is your home, right? If you can flip it and push against what is so easy to do, which is anger, frustration, terrible thoughts, and say, no, I reject this. I control myself. I'm in control. I don't want to be this person. I'm going to be happy and I'll figure it out. I'll sort it out. There'll be a way, but I can't live like this anymore. Yes, you will project against what evil is. There are forces around you at all times that want to pull you to that side of negativity. If you have many souls coming together, converging and just loving each other and, even singing Kumbaya, I don't care. The point is, it's better than we worship Satan and all this crap. It's like enough with the Moloch crap, because all you're doing is inviting the stuff that breaks this world. And so, yes, those people that moved in there were happy people. It was a beautiful home. They probably got a good deal. It's a beautiful home. The whole street is nice, and so your home is your pinnacle point of respite. You go there to decompress. You leave there to go do what maybe you don't want to have to do, because you have to do this. You have to survive. You have to earn, blah, blah, blah. Your home is your oyster. That is your pearl. That's where you should feel the safest and proud of, And so, yes, if you emit a positivity and say, I reject this. I'm sorry, but it's here. We're here now in this moment. We're living beings in this home. We reject all of that. Everything's fine. You really have more power and control than you think.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. I do want to let everybody know that's watching on YouTube. There's a link down in the chat to Tubi TV to watch the Amityville Curse. And there's also a link down there to Alex's latest book, The End is Near, which was published last year. But let me ask you this, Alex, because I thought it was kind of interesting in the film. They actually started talking about the idea of a tulpa, that there's enough. I mean, basically, it's based off of the concept of the Buddhist thought form, that there's enough energy put into a thought form that it becomes a sentient being. So over time, like you said, okay, the energy dissipates, but at some point, is it possible that you could have enough people throwing their energy and their thoughts into what they believe is happening at this location, that it could possibly end up manifesting somehow?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the power of manifestation, right? And we hear this a lot more so than in prior years. It comes back around. And you can try to put your energy towards something and manifest it, but it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that quickly. It takes a lot of soul work and a lot of spirit work and energy, because every day when you try to stick to that same mantra and you wake up and you're not feeling it, it's not happening. And so it breaks in that chain. It's really difficult to manifest things. It takes a long time. You have to really work at it. And so I think if it's people coming together and they're projecting and they're trying to manifest, or they are manifesting without intention, it would have to be like years worth of projections, like having to work on oneself in life as we grow and change and learn what we don't want, what we want. Look back and say, how long did it take me to get to this point? Every 7 years we change. So when you come up on when you look back 7 years ago, where were you to where you are now? Where are you going to be 7 years from now? You are going to be a different person yet again. So the same thing with manifestation is, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. When we sit there and we try to manifest the job that we really want, or the world that we really envision, that puts it in a pool with others that are doing it with you, and that's a collective, and it's a conscious collective that raises the vibration. And if we all did that, or even 50% of the realm did that, you would start to notice changes, because that's how potent we can be, and with that vibration and energy. And that manifestation will go further and longer as a group effort. But one person, a few people, it's better than one, because again, like doing a seance, the more energy that's around that table, those that are in the space continuum that's coming through, that wants to communicate, will feed off of you. So the more of you, the more of them, or the one that can come through more clear. So it's all just based on, for me, the theory of it all is connected. But to what degree? I think it's kind of like with the Schumann resonance. The higher the frequency, you're supposed to feel really good at 528 hertz of sound vibration, sound technology, sound healing, without a scalpel touching you. So, this comes from us, but it also comes from tools. And those tools are, and you've seen the videos of them, of like moving water through sound.
Right.
So sound vibration or sand particles creates the flower of life, or it creates pictures. So if you're not a good artist, but you know how to manipulate sound, and you have all these grains of sand down flat ready to go, and you hit your sound machine on, they start to create art that you created because you know how to operate sound.
Yeah, a lot of that with cymatics is really interesting. And in China, there's that what do they call it? The medicineless hospital, where they're basically using sound and chanting and intention to cure people. So that is absolutely fascinating.
It's been around. It's the Tartarian civilization. It's that tech. And so they even had sound energy weapons. And there's a lot of great photos online. They're huge, meant for like giants, and there's this huge, long, like cylinders. And, they, I guess, create such a potency of sound that you can get your enemy. you whatever, but yeah, so manifestation is great and it has its purpose, but it's again, like everything else, you really have to see it, feel it, envision it, and you have to stick to your guns for that. Can
Yeah.
people create situations, like if they go into a haunted location and they're hearing things, or they think they see something or whatever, or they record something, then the mind goes wild, right? And so you have those people that, oh, I know I heard this, or it's like, that's great, and that's your own perception. You can't argue that. That was that person's experience, but you have to have data.
Yeah.
You have to have something that backs up the possibility of what you heard or saw.
Yep.
A couple questions here from the chat. From Jill Nimchinsky. Has paranormal activity been reported at other homes in the neighborhood?
That's a good question. I do believe I read somewhere years and years ago that there was some people curious to see, well, are the other homes affected?
Mhm.
What happens in one, would it happen next door and resonate? I do believe that if the next door neighbors on either side or across the street had any experiences, you're dealing with personalities. So you might deal with people because of what happened, don't want to have anything to do with talking to anybody about anything. So if there's a ghost in their bedroom for like a minute, they'll be like, that's cool, that's fine, just don't tell anybody you were here.
Right.
Because they don't, you know what I'm saying? That's their home. Yet again, it goes back to your home. You don't
Mhm.
want that in there. I certainly wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, never mind, don't worry about it. Ghosty, okay, good, sit there. I'll help you cross over. Yeah, okay, sorry, what happened? Okay, don't tell anybody. So I'm sure that it resonated. The energy travels. I don't think it was trapped forever there. There was at some point that it started to move off. Whether there were other beings of light that came to help them move away from being entrapped. I wouldn't doubt if one or two people were affected by what happened in that home, walking down the street, pulling into their driveway.
Sure.
Why not? It's no different than if you work in an office building and there was something that was horrific that happened on that floor that you work, that you have to still walk on. You're still going to, your mind kind of sometimes go to those places where you might imagine feeling or seeing. But if you go to your intuition, your gut, and you're really feeling off and it's not normal for you, chances are you're connecting to that residual.
Yeah, something that always fascinated me, about the whole story of the house was on the night of the murders, was nobody ever heard any of the gunshots. The original Amityville horror movie made it. It was a dark and stormy night, and there was lightning and thunder, but there wasn't on the night of the murders. So, I've always wondered if there was some sort of strange, talking about like the energy of the property, if there was some sort of energetic barrier that may have prevented the sound waves from penetrating outward, so the rest of the neighbor could hear it.
Yeah, I mean that's a very plausible theory. There's also the fact that what if the gun had a silencer on it? There's that. You have to be realistic here. But yes, can a negative environment happen? Here's regardless of who committed the murders. Okay, it happened right in that instance. The intention was set forth that this family was going to be shot in cold blood. So here's the intention. Here comes the malice. Here comes the negative energy. Here comes all this stuff. Then they're gone. Their life has ceased to exist. Now they're moving off of the earth plane into limbo for a moment, and there can be a barrier around that for noise reduction. If there is, people believe in possession, being taken over. But what is possession? If you cannot stay on the straight and narrow path and you have to have such evil inside of you and you're just not human, essentially, and you can go through this, even if it was a hit job, let's say by the mob, you are a cold-blooded killer, period. And it doesn't matter, man, woman, or child, or dog, or cat. You're doing your job. That's what you do. And it's no big deal to you because it's your paycheck, and off you go. That's the devil in that house at that moment, if you want my opinion. And can that also create, a protection of sound that nobody would wake up? Absolutely. Because yet again, energy is potent. It's potent. Just because you can't always touch it or see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, just like a ghost, So to me, there's two plausible facts. It's either that or there was a silencer on the gun. But yet again, there was so much commotion going on, and there was definitely more than one person in the house committing this act. It was obviously a hit.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I would have to question, and again, we're talking the mob, what kind of police involvement. We know some of the evidence, or a lot of the evidence, went missing. As what was given to us as the public. They say they found the murder weapon, which did not have a silencer. So what pieces do we have, and what's been fabricated?
Right. Yeah. I think protection there, look, there's corruption, I mean, I know people, and some of our kids' friends that have grown up, their dads are cops, blah, blah, blah. It's great and all, but corruption runs rampant in the police force because it's part of the government and it's all connected, and you have to feel safe and trust it all. But why do you? I don't think so. I think that the biggest thing here is the potential of a cover-up, because like I said in the beginning of the show, to quell the town's fears and the beautiful boating momentum of what the town offers and what they aim to strive to be, and to the tourism that was building up over the years from the 70s onward up, there's money to be made, and it doesn't bode well to have all the truth come out. So when things go missing, there's a reason for that. It means you're being lied to.
Mm-hmm. So one other question I have, and then I want to move on to your book. So in Murder in Amityville, your father does talk a bit about possession in that. Of course, that was Amityville 2, the possession. So was that, reflecting back on it all these years, was that a part of this?
No, not really. I think to some degree, the whole thing with the case for Murder in Amityville was the first time that possession was entered as a plea in the courts. Mm-hmm. And my father was the first one to have access to DeFeo in the realm of paranormal investigation, on 2 separate occasions. The first prison, and then when we moved him upstate, not too far from us, which I didn't know till years after we were living here. I'm like, wait, what prison is he at? Where is that? Oh my God. It's like, I think I'm cursed. Like, thanks, Dad. So, and we have the audio recordings of my father talking to DeFeo. And at one point in the tape, he tries to hypnotize DeFeo. God bless my father. Honestly.
He tried to hypnotize him, huh?
Yes, because he did hypnotherapy. He did transdigression therapy to learn about people's past lives. He did it all. I'm telling you, wow. It was like so funny. He had the doctor's couch and everything, which of course we have here at the house.
Nice.
Yep. And the vet, sleepy, the whole thing. So
I love it when you do his voice.
Well, I cannot help it. Oh, now listen, everybody. So he tries to do hypnosis with DeFeo. And we're listening to this, and I'm just like, oh, daddy. Because I'm of a different school of thought and mind, and I respect him, believe he's my father. But I don't agree with everything either. You have to understand that.
Sure.
So he puts him in a hypnosis. And so we're listening to it. I'm like, okay. And he, in the session, he really believed that there was something in the house, that everybody heard it. And, oh, yeah, my mother saw things. My father saw things. Oh, yeah, we all experience things. Yeah. How he talked. And then my father's counting backwards with him and going through this process. He's like, are you relaxed? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I just tried. He really tried, because he wanted to find out the source of memory from being taken over by an entity. Now, could the angry Indian chief from the book Murder in Amityville have created such ruckus? I don't doubt it, because you have heard of curses. You've heard of Egyptian curses. Hello, you're never going to catch me raiding anybody's tomb. I don't care how much gold. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. I'm okay. It's all good.
Well, they've kind of all been raided already in Egypt.
Well, yeah, but
Or have they?
Or have they?
Don't forget the treasures that have been kept from us.
Yeah, this is true. Yes.
That have already been taken that you don't even know about.
There's plenty of. I mean, that's.
Well, the Smithsonian came out years ago and admitted that they hid a lot of, like, the giant bones, the giants, and other tech.
Yeah, they destroyed them.
Well, when I was in Egypt, and this is a real sidebar.
Yeah.
But Temple of Dendera, the second crypt that they have opened up, which is not really a crypt, there weren't bodies there, but it's a passageway under the temple. Yeah. And they told us we were like the first group in there after they had opened it up for 20 years. And you're going in there, they've got all, beautiful friezes on the wall and depictions, but then there's like these large blocks that have been taken out, and you're not seeing any rubble or anything like on the floor. And you look and you're seeing these fresh chisel marks, they're pretty white. And it's like, what's going on here? So I asked one of the guys, kind of pulled him off to the side. He's like, I can't say who it was that told me, because they don't, want to get in trouble. But I'm asking, what's going on down here? And basically it was, private collectors came in, picked out the important power pieces that had that ancient esoteric knowledge. And, they had a bidding war on this stuff and took those blocks.
What did I say? It all comes down to one common denominator: money.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to stop, is this need for money. If we all have what we need, which we can, then it's a non-issue. And this is the problem with it. And this is why, and that to me is even such ill intention in that environment. If I was in that tomb, if laying there, I would come back and be like, you mother effer. That's it. I curse you. Because you're going to throw up green and die in 24 hours. That's it. The curses are real. And, these people that do these things, I mean, how good of a life do you really think they're going to have? You think they're going to be blessed with good health? Well, unless you have a great medical bed that takes you back 40 years and takes any ailments from you, which they do exist, that kind of tech, well, then I guess you're good to go. But chances are you don't have that tech. It's in the higher ups, I believe. I think that the ancients protect it, and we're not ready for that. I think it's coming, but look at what we do to each other. And then you like this example. I mean, who does that? Greedy, narcissistic. It goes against everything in the Bible, and it doesn't matter what you believe in. It's the point of reference that you have to have some sort of structure of positive intent in your life. Otherwise, it's not going to be a pleasant ride at some point. But I think that there are curses. I do believe that, like with the Native Americans, they also had the same kind of structure and belief system, like with the Egyptians.
Oh, they did, yeah.
How they buried their dead, of course, they created, a different way of doing it versus tombs underground. You actually had some in the Shadow People. I think you had some great footage of the mounds, which are everywhere to be found, everywhere. Yeah, no. So, you have to understand that our dead is being displayed below and above. And it's ritualistic, but it's a belief system because they had to pay respect to it. What do? We desecrate, we steal, we bargain. We say, I'm a billionaire. Let me get in there and take out the most important stuff. And then you, Mike, you can go on your peon after the fact. But you're the first one in there.
Yeah, the first one in there. Like, hey, wait a second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Get out.
Now, did they steal it because, or I'm sorry, did they appropriate it because they're rich and powerful, or did they appropriate it because, like Hitler in the Sword of Destiny, he wanted that power, and there was something supernatural or esoteric about that
yes,
part that was chiseled?
Okay. They had the money to do it, and they believe by having those pieces and having that knowledge, you're going to have the power.
Money. Yeah. You can't get anything like that without money, because money talks.
Yeah. For now.
Well, yeah. Bye-bye. But it just further institutes what's wrong with this realm. But not to get off point.
Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left in the show. Let's talk about your book that you published last year, The End is Near. And so this is actually a young adult fiction novel, basically about the end times. So, Alex, what can you tell us about this?
Mike, I don't know. They need to go pick it up and read it. Well, first, I'm very proud to see that one of our daughters did the artwork and conception for the cover, because my mother,
fantastic.
My father, she did great. She's won all sorts of awards when she was in high school, and she commissions art now. She's in vet tech school right now, but this is her passion. And my mother used to do a lot of the cover art for my father in illustration form like that as well. So that was really special. I said, this book we're going to do, you're going to do what my mother and father used to do, and you're going to do that. So I had to have her read the whole book, which is not a big book. It's for young adult. It's a quick read, because my whole point was to get them to read a story and think about, what if we were put in, I'm not talking about apocalyptic films left and right. I wrote this story probably about 18 years ago, 17 years ago. And it's been sitting. And then I went to revamp it. And I said, no, not ready yet. And then I tried, and I'm like, with these publishers, it's like, meh, it's got to fit this list. And I said, you know what? I'm just forget it, because everything's now more indie anyway. More people are just publishing themselves and being very successful doing it that way. Grassroots is really where we're at anyway. And so I had to work on it again and reread it. And I said, this is really very scary, because it correlates to what's happening now. I bring up the Vatican in the story, and, reptilian, serpent. You've got humans, but you've got non-human. And I think when I wrote it, you would think that the first main characters would obviously be a ghost or something like that, because of who I am and where I come from. But she's not, and I won't talk about who she is, because I really wish people would just pick up the book and read it. And there's a message in the story of starting out one way, which isn't happy and pleasant, and going through these struggles, and then everything starts to, thank you. I'm going to tell her you said that. Yay. And so, it's a culmination of kind of like when you're on the road and here comes the person that you shouldn't pick up, but you do. And then here's another person, and it starts to become a group of people that converge, but you have to learn why they're converging. They don't know each other really, and something bigger than them is happening. And of course I end up putting them in Rome. And why is that? And I didn't know anything. I had no clue about the Vatican. There's a lot of stolen treasures there, the money. People don't understand how corrupt Italy is. And the 13 families, go look it up. This is real. And I think more now than ever this year, a lot of people know this, and so I didn't know any of this, almost 2 decades. I had no clue. I was just, intuitively.
And yet you're writing about it. Yeah.
Right. And so here we have an opportunity with you. I said, can we do this? You said yes, even though you really couldn't, because you are doing this, and that. So,
a little all over the place. Yeah.
Right. So I said, oh God, I'm never going to get this thing done. And then I had my daughter do the cover, and I said, we've got to get this done. And there's a message in there. And I think if people read it, they'll understand what's happening right now. And the fact that I didn't write it right now. I didn't write it last year or the year before then, or years before. So there is something that is at play. And yes, it involves God. But anything that's worth winning, a spiritual battle, is sometimes decades, if not almost a century in the making, to when you have finally the release. Now, of course, the title I thought would be on point to explain to people, what does that mean? There are other books that I saw that actually have a title like that, and I was like, of course. But mine means something.
That's right.
So, but yeah, it's very prophetic, actually, and it's weird because I don't see myself that way.
That's
Also,
funny because I was going to ask you that question. Do you believe it's prophetic?
how did I know that?
Do.
I don't have a crystal ball. I get it like a digital one.
I'm sure there's an app for that. You know,
I can't stand it. I'm going back into the 50s or 60s. I want off of this 2000 and shit. It is prophetic, and it came from my mind. And I love writing for children and young adults. I have tons of children's books sitting on my desktop. Because I have such joy in pulling him into a world that I can envision that I would love to be in myself. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks was one of my favorite books.
Oh, that was great.
Was done with Angela Lansbury. And I would be in my room. I had it wasn't brass, but from Austria we had imported was the wooden headboard with the knobs at the end. Mm-hmm. So I would be there with my black cat, Sylvia, and I'd sit there. Seriously, at night doing this. Like, oh my God, I'm going to get so much trouble. So loud. And it kept going. And I'm like, I'm getting it. And it went. I said, son of a. Because I wanted to fly out the window on the bed.
Right.
I had the bed like all ready to go. I had pillows propped up so she wouldn't fall off like when we were flying. I even cracked my window open to get ready to go off into the Hudson River, because it's what I faced. And the George Washington Bridge was off to the right. Nope, to no avail. I basically broke my headpost knob. And my father came in, I think it was 2 or 3 days later, he noticed. He says, Alex? I said, yes, Daddy. He said, what is wrong with your bed? It's going to pieces. I said, well, I don't know. I think Sylvia was playing with it. She thought it was a big ball to play with. I don't know. Toys. It's not my fault. Fix it. So he picks it up. He tries to put it on. He goes, I get glue. I said, what's glue? He goes, glue. I said, oh, glue. Okay, glue. He got crazy glue. Crazy glue.
Yeah, there you go.
On my bedpost.
And then you never traveled. That's one of my favorite movies, and I rewatched it like 2 years ago, and I was like, oh,
us too.
I can't believe all the stuff I missed as a kid. And then, I'm seeing all this. I'm like, oh my God, that flew right over.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff you have to go back and rewatch. Yeah. It's definitely different watching it as an adult. I
see. You ever watch things and you're like, you look at it with a different perspective, because it goes back to the point of the show, which I was telling you guys, we cannot stay the same. We have to evolve whether we want it or not. You can be stubborn like my sister, Oive. You can sit in this narrative in your mind. Now, blinders on like the poor horse in Manhattan with the blinders, But at some point, it's coming around in your face, and you're going to have to see it. You're going to process it, whether you like it or not. Whether you choose to accept it is a different story. But at some point, it will defeat you, because change is inevitable. Energy is in constant motion. We are all connected. There's always somebody that will feel connection to somebody else. It doesn't matter where in this realm. It really doesn't. Are we not all the same? Now, minus the evil people. Because they are. Those are the demons. And of course, anything that comes out of a crypt from below in any parts, not just Egypt, Israel, Africa, there's other parts, Turkey. No, thank you. I respect you. That's good. Bandages and all. I'll help you rewrap them. Go back to where you are. No problem.
Keep them in the crypt. Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned earlier you have you're working on other things with Amityville as far as like possible film. Are you working on another book at all?
Well, when my 6-year-old is maybe 8 or 9, I could probably get to it. It's impossible. I have books on the computer. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of screenplays. And right now, see, the problem, I'm so divided because I have to keep doing For Dad. I have to, so we have, we're talking, to Dennis right now to create something called For the Holzerverse for film.
Okay.
Like a film.
Very cool.
And so guess what happens? The writer's strike.
Yeah.
And then he's Canadian, then these fires happen. I'm like, yay, I am cursed. Didn't I tell you I was cursed? You see what I'm saying? So here we go. So there's a bit of delay in that.
Alex Curse.
It's the Holzer curse.
The Holzer Curse. Okay.
So we're waiting on that so we can get something going to pitch for a feature film. And then there's another book that my father wrote for fiction that got the interest for film. It would be for TV. So that I'm waiting on. Then, of course, I don't know if you see what happened with the merger years ago now, or at this point, I think it's been 2-3 years with Discovery and the Discovery Network with Time Warner, AT&T, and I don't know what, let's throw in IHOP, McDonald's. BlackRock.
There's a lot of companies, and it seems to have affected a lot of shows and networks.
Right. So our show for scripted for my father, which we were raring to go, contracts and all, we were right there. They wanted it. Put on hold. That was last year. Now going into this year, well, we're going on to other networks now. So we're having to, like other people, having to move our product to other places.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on for my father. It's just basically being patient, and the timing of it, because things have changed, right? So we would have been on Discovery again a year ago. So personally for me, I am in contract developing for my own series. Finally, that took about 12 years, 13 years to come back around. The last time I had a contract
in a little while
myself. Yeah. Well, it started out, and I used to film a lot of reels, and we were pitching for years, and I would, you sign for a year or if not more, and you have to wait and be patient, and they have to pitch, and you have to do that. And then it's like, we love you, but I'm not knocking you, but as a woman, as for a lead to do something like this, that actually comes from the real thing, not just casted for a show because, hey, it'd be fun and cool to ride around and be in an RV and ghost hunt. There's a show. Dude,
why don't you start your own channel?
No. I want to do this really professionally, and I love how the production companies, they really know what they're doing. Most of them, not all of them. There is a need of eloquence and class that must happen in order to do this, and it has to be done properly. So finally have the interest back again. The problem, though, is, of course, you're dealing with networks. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I could go and do that, but it would be like, why? There are specifics that I want to cover, certain people whose backgrounds that I want to be around, that are scientific, that are parts of how my father used to work, and parts of the tools that he used that I want to bring back because it's my tools. Like I told you, 50s, 60s, 70s. And so I represent the past. I am nostalgic, and that's really, to me, the premise of what a series would be, because there's so much of the past that we forget about or are remiss to even look at because we're so focused on TikTok, gadgets, 5-second microwave storytelling. But there is a huge audience out there that doesn't want that rejects that. And so there's a place for us too. And so we go back into the paranormal time machine, and we basically create an ensemble, if you will, of the past with the present. So I'm kind of a hybrid, and there's nobody else out there that has that. And so I was born into this for a very specific reason. It just takes forever to get there. I don't just get to walk on a show like some people and, hey, there it is. It's great, and that's great for people that they have opportunities like that. But let's not fool ourselves. There are genuine people that were born into this and have taken it seriously and have always been respectful. And online, I have never said anything that hasn't been true, and I've never backtracked anything I've said. I don't create drama or chaos. I'm not a clown show. I don't dance and fart and jump for likes and clicks and shares. I could give a rat's you know what. I think that's just infantile. And when people do that, you have to really look at who you're following, because that's who you give respect to. Okay, speaks volumes of that person. You know, so that's just my 2 cents.
And there's Kat. Love the old school concept. Can't wait to see your new show, Alex.
Me neither. Sheesh, let's hurry up already.
Yeah, let's get it going on. So
try it slow.
I know you have tried, because I've known you for a long time, Alex.
I know.
You have always worked your ass off. Yeah.
Well, you know, I do it behind the scenes, and I think people don't realize that I help people all the time, online, on the phone. I do it because it's my duty to help souls that feel lost, and understand about even when their animals die and what's happening, and a change or shift, or should they move? What should they do? You know, I just tap in, and then I do medically as well over the years, you know, and that just kind of came on, you know, and I don't display it much. You know, it's on my website that people can do that with me, but I don't push it. I don't call myself medium Alexandra Holzer, you know, because we're all kind of intuitive, aren't we? So if you kind of box yourself in and say, I'm a psychic, I'm a me, it's like, I think that's all labeling. Like, my father was given the term ghost hunter, but that was already a term with Harry Price. You know, it wasn't anything new. It was called marketing. And I understand that. But when you see all of these coming out of the woodwork over the years, and then reality shows and all this stuff, it's so much of it, and then there's not enough of it, meaning that you don't have a lot of choices. You only get to see what they choose to put out. So if you have maybe 5 or 6 shows, there could be 20 or 30 other shows of real people doing the work that are productive and are getting data and educating the people that would never want to do something like that, but want to learn about it on air.
Right.
But you can't get in there. It's got to be the select few, and then they become the experts. That's the opposite of what my father stood for. He worked with so many different types of people from around the world, because everybody had something to offer. And if they didn't, he'd say, okay, bye-bye, it's not working.
Yeah. Well, we are at our hour mark, actually a couple minutes past. So, Alex, I want to give I know it goes by quick, and we could have so much more to talk about, especially with the subjects we were talking about before we went live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to give the last moment here for you to let people know, you know, where they can find you, what to expect from you, anything you want to plug or market here for a moment.
Oh, that's so kind of you. You wee lad over there being so nice to me. I don't know. I just want people to pay attention. I appreciate support. Obviously, I feel like I'm trying to catch up with others that seem to be far ahead, and I don't know why that is, but there it is. You know, support's the biggest thing anybody can ask for in their passion and their futuristic goal to see what's ahead. And they can find me online. They know Twitter. Well, the Twitter, I call it Spacebook. I got off of Instagram because they didn't want to verify me, yet I had about 18 accounts impersonating me week after week. Proof. I took my stupid license photo thing. I did all that stuff. And then Facebook writes me back, because it's the same company, which, by the way, verified me 12 years ago on my public page. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. And so I said, you know what? I got off of Instagram. I don't need them. And then they were recently tied to supporting pedophilia. So you know what? Good for me.
Oh, were they?
I don't need them.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, they support and promote pedophilia. So got to be careful of how much do we need of personal attention. We can sell our products elsewhere. You know, we really can. And support, which is why I said is the most biggest thing you can do for anybody like us here tonight, because we really are good people, and we have a lot of really interesting, fascinating things to teach you.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So, all right, everybody. Please go check out Curse of Amityville. So the links are down there in the description, Curse of Amityville, and then The End is Near. Go check out both of those links that I have down there. Alex, again, always a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you so much. And being our first guest back.
Well, good for you. I hope
it was
you guys
good to see you.
I'm not online. I don't pay attention to anything. So if anything's going on, I know you You'll be fine. You've had a change. Something's happened with you. But I'm not online. I go on the Twitter. Because that's it's where, that and my public Facebook page. I'm not on my private one anymore. Why? My mother's on there. That's why she's on my friends list. I just don't want to post on there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was, because when I was tagging you on posts on like Facebook and all that, taking a peek and like, yeah, Alex hasn't posted a lot on the personal one for a while, but you had stuff on the public side, so yeah.
Yep, I'm off of there. I have no interest, but I know some things with yous happen, and you'll be okay. Everybody's gonna be okay. Just have to be calm. He's smiling. Did something happen?
It's coming. Mike got engaged. Mike.
Oh, for me, yeah, I got
Mike's engaged.
Yeah, I guess since you haven't been on the personal side, then you missed that.
No,
yeah,
I don't care. I don't want to know. I'm just.
Yeah, no, I got engaged last week. Yeah.
I am stunned. I'm happy, but I didn't think you would do that. Like the past is the past. I knew that you were moving on. I knew that you had ended something that didn't serve a purpose anymore for both of you.
Yeah.
And he
Mike
needed
is boldly gone.
No man wants to go again. Marriage? What's that? Run if you can. But with you, well, listen. God bless you for doing that again, because I did.
You did, yeah.
I did, and then I got pregnant again when I shouldn't have. So you don't have to have that issue. Just say.
That part is not happening.
Cursed.
We all learn from the starter marriage. So
my red room. No, I'm really congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Is she online or? I'll have to go.
She is. I don't know if she's still down. She was in the chat earlier, so I don't know if she is. But yeah.
Okay, well, tell her I give her big love and smooches, and that warms the cockles of me heart.
Yeah, one of these times we're through New York. I know we've said it before. We'll connect. So
we're here. Unless there's an apocalypse, we'll be on the roof going woo. But
and then there'll be that one dog. The dog runs through.
And I will be grabbing my dog's food and going to feed that dog. I promise you. While I get eaten.
And yep, she's there.
Hi. What's
her name? Her name's Jennifer.
Jennifer, how pretty. Hi, Jennifer. Congratulations.
Yeah, we go all the way back. We were in first grade together. She was actually my first kiss in the library at the school. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I love it. Well, it comes full circle. When you're meant to be, you're meant to be. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And other stuff doesn't serve its purpose, but in the moment it did, or you can't get out of it, or you think I need to still keep trying. Eventually, push comes to shove, energy says, nope. So good for you. I'll let you two go. Tell her I'm so happy for you both. That's so exciting. I'll have to go look now online. Great. Thanks.
All right. Have a great night, Alex.
Bye, Alex.
Bye, guys. Much love.
All right. So fantastic there with Alex. For those that are part of the Connected Universe portal, we are going to the portal side. So we're going to have to let the YouTube side go. So it's the member after show coming up here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll be back with another Connecting the Universe next week on consciousness. So be on the lookout for that. Next month, our Edge of the Rabbit Hole guest will be Mark Anthony. So
look who's down there. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but look who just popped up.
Oh, there's Adam. I remember those eyes. And I like this. Love in the library. Yeah. From a retired librarian. There we go.
I always read. I must have been doing it wrong.
All I was doing, I was looking through, the stack of books, right? I'm just, and she just planted one right on me. So yeah.
Did you pull the book out and she was like on the other side, like they do on TV?
No, she came right up next to me. Yeah. So, all right. So good night, YouTube, and Connect the Universe portal. We will see you in just a second.